MJF was going to say something at the start of this week's episode of AEW Dynamite, but before he could get any words out, Daniel Garcia interrupted him. This is wrestling gone crazy. Also, hello my friends, and welcome to Ups and Downs for AEW Dynamite, which is just the wrestling review show with I, Simon Miller. And sometimes you agree with me, and sometimes you don't agree with me. Sometimes you go on social media and say, Simon, I don't like you. I want you to fall in a hole. But then you'd have to come and find me, and that costs tax dollars. Nobody wants that. Don't know how we got here. Let's up those downs. Now, this was all because MJF and Daniel Garcia are from the New York area, so they did want to have a bit of a chitty chat, or mostly Garcia wanted to say some nice words to Maxwell Jacob Friedman. And even Danny Boy was like, nobody ever does this, but I consider myself a positive Pete. It also tied into the fact that MJF had saved him last week, but months ago too, Maxwell had said to Daniel Garcia, man, I think you've got what it takes to be a pillar of this company, and if you get a bunch of wins, you can have a title shot. And they did do that match. And well, Daniel Garcia lost. And I think that made him a little bit of a sad panda. The thing is though, he was so embarrassed by that, it inspired him to go on a massive run, which won him the respect of his peers and the fans. So now screw being a pillar of All Elite Wrestling, he wants to become the backbone of the company. That's a bit like, Dan, you don't want to do that. That sounds like a lot of hard work. Friedman then responded by doing some promotional work for his upcoming appearances when he got right into Daniel Garcia's face and was essentially saying, thank you very much for the kind words. Imagine you did that in real life. I appreciate what you just said to me.
Well, I appreciate it too.
Great. Maybe we should kiss. Also, I suppose he was a little bit annoyed because Danny Garcia was trying to take his spot here and nobody takes MJF's spot. But as he said to him, listen, you are a different kettle of fish from the last time we did meet. And yeah, man, you have got better. He also didn't give him that title shot last time out of pity. He had earned it. And look, they are basically two peas from a pod. We are both two undersized wrestlers from the New York area who have to walk around with a chip on their shoulder. And now look at us. We are totally successful. MJF then poked the bear because he was like, when we did have that fight, I beat you quite easy. But I don't think it would be the same if we fought again. So I am laying down the challenge right now, you versus me in Wembley Stadium at All In. Where the hell did that come from? Now, Daniel wasn't able to answer this because Will Ospreay interrupted from nowhere, because no wrestler can handle other wrestlers having a conversation. And he also threw some prizes in the fire, because he was like, actually, Mr. Garcia, you've been wanting a shot at this international title for a while. Well, why don't we do it next week? As far as Ospreay is concerned, though, that will be a double title match because he is going to win the World Championship at Forbidden Door. So he offered that to Garcia too. That was like, well, obviously except, do I look like a moron? The commentators also made sure to underline, oh my gosh, Will Ospreay just showed up MJF here. And just as Garcia was going to respond to Maxwell, he was like, nah, look, I totally get it. That is a good opportunity. Best of luck with it. Now all of a sudden it makes me feel like we're going to do a three-way all-in featuring these people, which kind of does feel like it's come out of nowhere. But there is a subplot here, which is Will Ospreay is now walking around going, I'm going to be the world champion and making other matches. So you could say, maybe, just maybe, he is putting too much on his plate. And then he's going to get bloated. Now, while I always enjoy AEW crossing the streams, this one may be a little bit too much of a crossing, as they did tell us in the original Ghostbusters. But I also think it's a narrative that we have to wait and see with, because it's all going to change after Forbidden Door, and then we do get into nitty-gritty as we head to All In. But I am going to give it an up, but the key is this. We have now re-involved Daniel Garcia. Don't let him get missing again. That's happened one too many times, so yeah. I especially liked it though, because right after this, we did cut to Swerve Strickland, and he said these words. It's like, William, you're already making title matches even though you're not the champion? I mean, you know, if you'd asked me, which you did not, I think you're biting off more than you can chew. He also thinks that Will should be focused on the fact that him and Swerve are teaming up later to take on the Gates of Agony. So let's just talk about it now. So I don't like it. I'm sorry. Because the whole can they coexist storyline just feels too played out for me when it comes to pro wrestling. And look, there is a huge side of me, this side right here, that think that's unfair, because all of that does come from WWE, because they used to do it all the time, and that shouldn't then reflect badly on other promotions. But again, I'm just one man, and I can only consume wrestling in one way, so to me, I'm just like, man, I don't want to do it again. This is twofold as well, because one, after last week, it got so damn personal, I don't think Ospreay and Swerve would ever agree to this. And also, two, we did the exact same thing with Mina Shirakawa and Tony Storm. So like, once would have been enough, but we doubled it up. So look, this is just a personal nerd geekdom thing. I am going to give it a down, but look, when we get to those matches, well, you'll see. When it was Hiromu Takahashi, Shinsuke Takagi, and Teton, taking on the Blackpool Combat Club. Honestly, I almost became David Attenborough here because this was so unexpected. I felt like I should do some kind of documentary. And as we can see, the LIJ members did find themselves in America when they tried to take out the Blackpool Combat Club. So yes, it was totally random, but I suppose the whole point of the Forbidden Door pay-per-view is that it's totally random, and yes, everybody calm down. Excalibur on commentary went into huge detail about the LIJ, so now at least you know the origin. Bryan Danielson was on commentary too, because of course he's taking on Takahashi at the weekend. This was just basically our party match for the evening, because all these guys went nuts. Everybody kicked off to begin with too when T-Tom did the dumbest dive you've ever seen in your life. I think Wheeler Yuta was like, man, this guy's trying to show me up, so he got in there and he started booting everyone in the air. Claudio Castagnoli was then here and he was facing off with T-Tom when he gave him such a big backbreaker. I called the newspapers, I was like, listen, somebody just broke a back. So he is now definitely backless as Mox went and grabbed Takahashi and just threw him into barricade. And all this happened within the first 3 minutes. I was like, man, I don't think they're gonna calm down. I wasn't talking to anyone. I watched wrestling by myself. T-Ton then did his Matrix bend, which is when he was able to tag in Tagaki. This was essentially a hot tag. So as soon as Shingo was in there, he was like, hey man, watch this. I'm really good at wrestling. And he went totally crazy. He also dropped Yuta on his head with a brain buster as him and Mox essentially got into a clubbing battle. And this is when the tag klaxon went off and everybody just got in there and it was move, 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 move until it looked like Takahashi was going to win with a time bomb. So Jonathan just went, nah, screw that. He got a chair and he hit him. And the ref went, well, obviously that's a disqualification. I don't know why it made me laugh. It was just so blatant cheap. And then we got this massive brawl, which was quite entertaining when Naito's music hit, because of course he's in charge of the LIJ. And man, I was dying. Do you remember that time Jeff Hardy debuted in AEW and he felt like he had to dance before making the save? Well, here, Naito didn't come out for around about 45 days. I mean, we essentially got to a different month. Moxie couldn't handle this either, so as soon as Naito did decide to show, and he had no urgency about it whatsoever, those two got into it, and they fought to the back, because of course they will be going at it on the Forbidden Door. Takahashi then made sure to lay out Wheeler Yuta too, so Bryan Danielson would get in the ring, and these two stared at each other, because as we know, if you do that in wrestling, it is super serious. So this was really damn fun. I mean, I'm not sure on that disqualification, but I guess this was just there to remind you, oh my gosh, anything can happen when we do open that stupid door. When I searched my feelings, well, I did have a very good time. I ain't gonna get mad about having a good time. It was right into the men's Owen Hart Cup qualifiers after this too, because it was Jay White versus Fenix. This was a very, very good match. As we did have all the respective teams at ringside too, they started causing shenanigans instantly, so the ref was like, oh, I don't have time to this, you have to go away. This is when I got a bit confused round two, because I was like, wait a minute, I thought there weren't meant to be any seconds at ringside in the Owen Hart Cup tournament, but AEW has so many of these, that was probably something else and I was being dumb. Fenix did use that as a distraction though, when he went for the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, surprise roll-up, but he only got a 1-2. And Jay White was so insulted by this, he whacked him right in the tum-tum. Fenix then remember he had all the agility because he did a Hurricane Rana and another ridiculous dive. Somebody needed to clue him up here, because as always in 2024, he went for one too many. So when he tried for a springboard, Jay just caught him and slammed his ass. It was always going to happen, and nobody wants a slammed ass. Fenix then returned fire with a super kick and a splash of the frogs for an awesome 1-2. But seriously, he was getting so much offense here. Well, I knew what was going to come. He is so good though, as is White, who stopped him with a DDT and Uranage. And because they were basically going back and forth here, they kind of jockeyed for position when White was like, I've seen the opening, and he hit the Blade Runner and he got the 1-2-3. Now that kind of came out of nowhere, but I sort of liked it. This should be able to happen in wrestling. You fell into a bad place. We made sure the Patriarchy came out afterwards because of course on Collision they had said we want those trios titles, which the Bang Bang Gang do have. So I guess when the Owen Hart Cup stuff is doing, we'll go right into this, which means promo battles between Jay White and Christian Cage. Hold on to your mothers. I am very excited for this Owen Hart Cup tournament this year because of course it does have a #1 contendership attached to it, which leads you to All In. I am giving this an up. Once again, it was just a good time. The Young Bucks were then in the back and they were upset with the Acclaimed because the only reason they had won last week is because they took advantage of Nicholas Jackson's bad temper. And that ain't gonna happen again. Now this is where I got confused again, because quite clearly I was stupid. Because they were talking about the fact that Max Caster and Anthony Bowens now do have a tag team title shot in the future. And I thought this was gonna be at the pay-per-view, but as I soon realized, People just kept saying, at an undetermined period of time. I thought, why don't we just come up with a date? Matthew did have an announcement about this Owen Hart Cup tournament though, because of course, Jeff Jarrett is going to be taking on a wild card, and as they let us know, that wild card will be representing the elite. As far as they're concerned, they will go all the way, and they'll bring back the world title into the fold. So if you're now going, oh my gosh, it could be Hangman Adam Page, you are totally right. Now I hope it's Shane McMahon, because I want all of that chaos. That's a different video for a different day. And given that we have dropped his name a couple of times, make sure you go and watch the Jeff Jarrett promo that he cut on Collision. There's an extended cut on the internet. It is genuinely one of the best things you are ever going to see. And if you are still one of these individuals going, man, he shouldn't be in this, well, we can't be friends anymore, and I think you're an absolute goober. I think the Acclaim must have heard what the Young Bucks said too, because they just headed to the ring. And as the commentators told us, wait a minute, they are not on our run sheet. So it's a good thing they did come out, otherwise Dynamite wouldn't have been 2 hours. Now Caster was really happy that they had beat the Young Cucks last week, which is what he kept calling them, whereas Bowens made it clear, when we do fight you, at some point, we will become the tag team champions. Once again, I was like, man, just do it on Sunday, it's right there. They then did a big scissor, which of course brought out the elite, and as soon as Okada saw this, he went, scissor me, bitch. So there it is. Bring down the bitch counter, which I'm still a little bit worried about, but it rolls up to 5, and it's only been going 2 weeks. I want to point out that it's Okada's delivery that I like so much. He doesn't even need to say the word bitch. When Nicholas Jackson went, hey, you know what? We do have this Forbidden Door thing at the weekend, so why don't we do a trios match? And that's when I was like, right, I've got totally lost. What happened to the tag team fight? And I know it's me, and I'm a bald a-hole, and I'm a Johnny Sins lookalike. That's what everyone says when they get mad. What are you going to do? I have to live with it every day. They also wanted Billy Gunn involved, but Daddy Ass had a better idea, because he knows presidents. And at first I was like, that's one of the strangest sentences I've ever heard. But he did point to the big screen when Hiroshi Tanahashi turned up, because of course he is the president of New Japan, and he was like, Okada, my old friend, my old rival, let's do this again, because yeah, I'm going to join the Acclaimed, and there's your 6-man tag. I can't lie. Deep in my Tootsie Toes, I was like, okay, that's a pretty good spin. I definitely want to see that again. It's also really smart to do it in a 6-man tag because you can predict some of the weaknesses you may have. And this really is why AEW should keep the Forbidden Door non-canon. But because we are getting Will Ospreay versus Swerve for the AEW title, I just presumed, wrongly admittedly, that we get the tag team titles too, so I'm giving myself a down. And the television a down. Again, this is probably more on me. I was kind of spinning around here, and I ain't Kylie Minogue. It's totally irrelevant though, because the Elite versus the Acclaimed with Tanahashi is a great Forbidden Door match. In fact, I think it may be the best one on the card in terms of taking these individuals and just throwing them in. I want as much madness as possible, and I am giving it up. Mark Briscoe, Kyle O'Reilly, and Orange Cassidy were there backstage with Renee Paquette about to do an interview. I was instantly excited. Because Briscoe went totally crazy talking about the TNT ladder match that is happening at the Forbidden Door when Kyle O'Reilly took over, because he is facing Zack Sabre Jr. later, and actually he was doing a pretty good job mimicking Briscoe before he lost his confidence. He turned to Mark and he said, I don't think this is very good. Now Briscoe disagreed, but he did have some extra ideas when he went, Zack Sabre, you ain't nothing but fish and chips, boy, and Peppa Pig are just laying on the floor. We need to give Mark Briscoe every single championship that AEW has because we do not deserve him. Orange and Renee also shared their usual awkward moment at the end, and this is getting an up. I don't care, man. Once again, if anybody makes me laugh this much, well, I'm going to take my finger and put it in the upwards direction. When you say it like that, what the hell are we doing? When we got deep into some more story, because yes, it was Toni Storm, Mina Shirakawa, and Mariah May. Can they coexist? Taking on the brand new group of Saraya, Harley Cameron, and Anna Jay. Now we've already talked about the down parts, so we're not going to talk about it again, but once more, it did make more sense here because Toni and Mina have been falling out for ages. So of course, the whole time through this, they didn't want to tag each other, they were tagging Mariah May, and at one point, Mina just tagged herself in, and Storm looked at her like, man, I tell you, I will rip your head off. I also love the fact that after Toni Storm had made her entrance, Mariah May ran back so she could do the entrance with Shirakawa too. These are the little things, man. They make the world go round. Storm has more reason to be mad at Shirakawa too, because when Mina did blind tag herself in there, Harley Cameron just grabbed her and stabbed her right in the back, or she gave her a back stabber, and then it was just move. At one point, everybody was in the ring. The referee was kind of just going, I can't handle it. It was quite well done though, because the last one was Mina doing her Shirakawa driver, or glamour drive, whatever the hell she calls it, meaning she got the win for her team. So So at one point, Toni Storm was like, well, I guess I do have to celebrate with you now. And Mariah May was so happy about this, she went out the ring and she brought in some champagne. This of course meant they all started dancing, because why wouldn't you do that? And as soon as Mina had her glass, she went to smash Toni Storm right in the face. Toni ducked and she hit Mariah May instead. That's when these two fell out again. I don't think they're ever going to be friends. For surely the long game here is that Mariah May will win the Owen Hart Cup tournament and she will face Toni Storm at All In for the title, which is interesting because as far as I'm concerned, Toni Storm is still definitely a babyface. But in terms of this three-way and all the interactions we have been doing, I think it's been super good and I'm massively intrigued to see what we do at the weekend because it has to end with a big angle. Giving it enough. Then got another video for Mercedes Moné versus Stephanie Vaquer, which is going down on Sunday as well, and we saw the fact that Mercedes had travelled to CMLL, and she got right in Stephanie's face. We also saw Moné in the back, and she said that she has learned that Vaquer does have a match on Collision, so you know what? She's going to visit that too, so she can scout her competition up close and personal. Again, this is another one that could steal the show at the Forbidden Door. We wait and see. I made sure I went all quiet after this too, because Chris Jericho and the Learning Tree came to the ring. Do go silent, you will hear someone on the internet getting really, really mad. Now, something has definitely happened to Brian Keith's arm because it was in a sling here, and as Big Bill told us after they got jumped on Collision by Samoa Joe and his gang, poor Brian is now injured. Given what was about to happen, I think this is true, so all the best to that guy. He was absolutely killing it. I hope he's better soon. I thought Big Bill was really good here too. He had got that cadence down. And when Chris Jericho took over and did his, hey guys, people in the crowd have started saying hello back. I'm sorry, this is my favorite kind of wrestling. It is so stupid, but I had a massive smile on my face. He's also clearly been following social media because he said, I just want to let everybody know I'm here for the young guys, which is exactly what Cody Rhodes was talking about in his interview a couple of days ago. I'm surprised he didn't follow this up with a hot toy. It of course means the planned six-man tag for the Forbidden Door is in a little bit of trouble. And Jericho's like, don't worry, I went through my book of contacts and I have found somebody. And we all looked at the big screen and that's right, it was flipping Minoru Suzuki. I tell you this, for a few seconds I was like, my gosh, it could be Repo Man. Because before somebody has announced it, you just don't know. Turned out this was a ruse within a ruse though, because Suzuki was like, I don't want to join your stupid team. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And in fact, Chris, I want to fight you for the FTW title. When we come back to Chris Jericho, his face, it was like he had seen a ghost, and the ghost had tried to kill him. Samoa Joe, Hook, and Shibata then walked out, and Samoa thought this was absolutely hilarious. He was all like, the Learning Tree looks like it doesn't have enough branches. It was quite a good line. Shibata also told Jericho he sucks through his voice translator thing, which must have really upset Chris, because he slaps Samoa Joe right in the face, and dun dun dun, we got a big old brawl. So this to me does say that Brian must be injured and we were holding off here until we can do the six-man tag, and I actually quite like that. If we do have a plan here and he's going to be back pretty soon, patience is a virtue, we don't need to rush. There's also the big fact that when Suzuki wants to be, he's very good at goofy wrestling for life, as is Jericho, so if they do that on a show like Forbidden Door, I think it will be so damn good, because you know you're going to get a bunch of intense matches, you're going to need a little bit of a break. So yeah, that could be this. Just a bit of over-the-top fun, sign me up. And I know it's a divisive thing, but I really like this Learning Tree gimmick. I think it's really found its feet, and it's just so ridiculous in the best possible way. Once again, you have to get mad. Getting it up. It's also why I like the next match so much, because it went totally 180, because it was Kyle O'Reilly taking on Zack Sabre Jr., and these two guys just wanted to break each other's limbs. We also went Forbidden Door crazy, because we had Orange Cassidy on commentary, and in the crowd we had the Undisputed Kingdom and Gabe Kidd. And given how this one did end, if you did get a little bit confused because you only watched AEW, yeah, I get it. We were grappling on the floor too until each guy tried to get an armbar, and when they were unsuccessful, Zack just grabbed Carl's neck and he cranked it. So he was either trying to give him a readjustment or he wanted to break his damn skull. Somebody call a cop or a chiropractor. Zack was also doing his ridiculous octopus holds, and Kyle O'Reilly didn't like that, so he got out of it and just booted him. I think this enraged Sabre because he just kicked Carl right in the arm. That looked so horrible because it was so easy to relate to. Nobody wants to be kicked in the flipping lip. And the coolest thing about this match is it was just two guys trying to beat the shit out of each other so they could go to the ground and apply a submission. And when that didn't work, they got back up into a standing position and they just hit each other again. So if you like a bit of realism in your pro wrestling, Exhibit A. Maybe it was just submission attempt, submission attempt, submission attempt. Oh, it didn't work. I'll drop you on your head with a suplex. Why not? It carried on basically until Zack Sabre Jr. did his ridiculous transitions, and man, he got into this armbar, and O'Reilly basically tapped out instantly. So this is how we should treat the armbar from this point out. If somebody does lock it on you, you have to quit, otherwise you're gonna die. We then threw everybody back into the ring as Zack Sabre Jr. and Orange Cassidy stared off, because of course they are going to fight at the pay-per-view. When out came Robbie Eagles and Shane Haste, because they are part of Zack's crew, and we had the Undisputed Kingdom here, and Gabe Kidd was on the apron just yelling at everybody, because that is his gimmick. So yes, like I've already said, if you're like, what is going on here? There was a lot to take in, but that's the point of the Forbidden Door. This is how you should take advantage of it. Just throw people around the place. Turned out Tomohiro Ishii had also flown in, because he came out to back up Orange Cassidy. We all know why this is. He really likes fiber. So you have to assume this is all going to tie into what goes down at the weekend. It's probably going to end with a big old schmoz. But in terms of this match, I am going to give it an up because, again, it just felt so different. And while we do get a lot more like this on American TV, well, it still feels quite novel to me. And that rhymes, so it must be true. When we got to our big old main event, and can Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland coexist? Now, as always, the answer is yes, because otherwise, as soon as they were in each other's personal spaces, one of them would have vanished and gone to the Phantom Zone. And I checked with General Zod, nobody's there. I also think it suffered a little bit because their opponents were the Gates of Agony, and while they are such a good tag team, let's just be honest here, those guys never win. No wonder they are fences that are upset. They did jump Swerve and Will at the bell because they knew what they were doing. But when Ospreay went to boot Khan, he got out of the way and he almost hit Strickland instead. And quite rightfully, Swerve looked at him like, I think you did that on purpose. That did allow Toa Leona to smash them for a while though when Swerve got in there. And while he did kick some ass, he also got his ass kicked. So when he went to tag Will, Khan made sure to pull him off the apron. So as far as Swerve was concerned, well, you dastardly so-and-so, you didn't accept my hot slap. The Gates then hit a big old spine buster for a 1-2-ooh where Swerve Strickland used his MP to cast dodge, meaning the Gates of Agony ran into each other when he finally got the big old hot tag to Will Ospreay. This guy. It just goes so fast. I mean, he instantly hit this handspring double kick and a shooting star press for his own 1-2-ooh. But man, when he went to the top of T to the turnbuckle, Khan stopped him and killed him with this avalanche, brainbuster, massive suplex thingamajig. If that had been the finish, I totally would have bought it. Instead, Strickland had to get back in the ring to break up the 1-2-ooh. So I was like, there you go, they can work together. But he went outside and hit this awesome swerve stomp when back in the ring. Ospreay was about to hit the Tiger Driver, but he hesitated. And as he should be learning, that never goes well. Because as soon as he tried to do something else, he realized that he needed to hit a super kick, and he accidentally hit Swerve. So I was totally wrong, they cannot coexist. I really do think that should have led to them losing, because it would have tied into the story, but when Ospreay got hit with the pounce, he kicked out of the 1-2-ooh when Swerve was back, and even though it looked like he was going to hit Ospreay, he just smacked the Gates of Agony instead. But the commentators talked about this too, and I don't think that is where that foot was intended to go. Eventually, the Gates of Agony were down though, and Swerve did that horrible thing he does with people's arms, when it really did look like he'd broken Khan's, but that just opened the door. Will Ospreay was like, you know what, Leona, I'm gonna hit you with the hidden blade. 1, 2, 3. Now the aftermath to this was really good, because after Will Ospreay had done it again and snatched the world title, Strickland just came up behind him, booted him in the leg, and gave him the house call, and man, he came across like the coolest guy ever. Because as he told you last week, I will do whatever I have to do, including breaking into people's houses and kidnapping babies. That's what he did with Hangman Adam Page. So while I actually think it would have been better if their interaction last week had been on the go-home episode of Dynamite, because Strickland came across like such a badass here, well, I totally enjoyed it. It just worked. I also think you have the makings of a forever feud here, because these two absolutely have good chemistry, and even with all that silly coexist stuff, I am definitely giving it an up, because when I search my feelings once more, it says Simon. I can't wait for that main event, and while I believe Swerve will retain, you just never know. So all of this set up Forbidden Door very nicely, and it should be an absolute roller coaster of a pay-per-view, which is AEW's calling card. So we take the finger of power, we do a swirling motion for some reason, it's getting it up. Now, of course, it's your turn to let me know what you thought about the show in those comments below. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe, and click that on the screen. Bam, it's ups and downs from Monday Night Raw. We can talk about the Wyatt Six. Most importantly though, my friends, thank you so much for joining me. I do appreciate it. And of course, I'll see you over the weekend. Take care. Goodbye.